Okay. Hello. Hello. I hope I am audible to all of you. Is my voice clear? Is my voice clear? Is my voice clear to all of you? Okay. So today in this video, students, we are going to see about the topic that is ecosystem. So let's start. Let's start with the topic ecosystem. Okay. So what do you mean by ecosystem? So ecosystem is uh, self-regulatory and self-sustaining structural and functional unit of natural biosphere. Okay, it is a self-regulatory and sustaining unit of natural biosphere. Okay, so what happens here? Our Earth, as you know, is a big biosphere. Okay, our Earth is planet Earth is a system where all the different organisms live together. Okay, so all the different organisms lives together. Yes. So we are going to see what are the different functions that are uh, there present on the uh, earth, through which the earth system functions together. Okay, so as you know, earth is having different layers. Okay, earth is having different layer. Okay, the first layer that earth is having is lithosphere. Okay, lithosphere is what? Lithosphere is earth's crust. Okay, lithosphere is earth's crust. Okay, then after lithosphere, what comes after lithosphere? Then the next layer is, hydrosphere. Okay, this means oceans, seas, water, etc. Okay, the third layer is atmosphere, through which the earth is surrounded. Okay, so it is the air or the air column of the earth through which the earth is surrounded. Okay, now all the three layers together forms the biosphere. Okay, they together forms the biosphere. Okay, and this biosphere is very much necessary for life to sustain. Okay, so this biosphere is very important for life. Okay, so biosphere is the region where all the three components meets together. Okay, so biosphere is the region where all the three components meets together. Okay, so that is what we are going to see here in this today's video, and the topic also, that is ecosystem and energy flow. Okay, so the our ecosystem is having two different components. Okay, first is biotic component and second is abiotic component. Okay, now these two components consist of two different things. That is a very important system of very important system present in nature. Okay, the biotic component actually, biotic component consists of all the living forms. Okay, living organisms. Biotic component consists of living organisms. Okay, and the abiotic component is the non-living part, which is essential for living organisms. Okay, non-living part. Okay, so what are the example of non or the abiotic components? The example of abiotic components, students, is soil. Okay, then air, yes, water. Okay, all these are the components, abiotic components, that is present on the earth. Okay, so these are all the different components that is present, abiotic components that is present on the earth. Okay, so our biosphere consists of both of these components, that is abiotic component and biotic component together. Okay, so when these things comes together, first time scientist Arthur G. Tansley, okay, it is Arthur G. Tansley. Arthur G. Tansley. Okay, what Arthur Tansley did, he called all this thing together in 1935 as ecosystem. Okay, so Arthur G. Tansley first time coined the term ecosystem. Okay, remember this term ecosystem was coined by Arthur G. Tansley first time. Okay, then ecosystems vary greatly in size. These ecosystems may be different forms, that is small ponds, large screens, oceans, small farmlands, etc. Okay, and this most important thing is the biosphere present on Earth. Okay, so we can call the entire Earth as a global ecosystem. Okay, we can call the entire Earth as a global ecosystem. Okay, so since the ecosystem, global ecosystem, that is Earth, is too big, too complex for its study, it has to be divided into certain steps. Okay, the first category or step is terrestrial ecosystem, and the second category is aquatic ecosystem. Okay, so let's see the different categories of ecosystem that is present now. Okay, so aquatic ecosystem here means, students, aquatic ecosystem here means the organisms living in water. It may be ocean, it may be fresh water, etc. Okay, and the terrestrial ecosystem here means land ecosystem, where it can be forest, it can be, uh, urban areas, it can be anything which is on land. Okay, desert, grasslands. Okay, there are types of terrestrial ecosystem, while aquatic ecosystem is wetlands, then rivers, estuaries. All these types are aquatic ecosystem. Okay, so the ecosystem can also be classified on different types based on based on natural and artificial ecosystem. Okay, means the ecosystem which is made itself are natural, and artificial ecosystem are generally made by human beings, where human beings create an environment where different organisms lives. Okay, or human being create an environment according to his requirements, and makes organism or makes trees, animals live there, flora and fauna lives there. Okay, so zoo is a best example of artificial ecosystem, where uh, we create an atmosphere for an organism to live there. Okay, natural ecosystem do not require humans inputs, it is self-sustained, it is made by itself. Okay, and human is also part of that natural ecosystem. Okay, so uh, Here, artificial ecosystem, that is one example is given here, large pond, which is for rearing fishes. Okay. So constant inputs has to be made in this by humans so that this ecosystem creates or this ecosystem sustains a lot. Okay. Or this ecosystem lives there for a longer time, and whatever the requirement present in that ecosystem will be there. Okay. So now let's see the stratification of ecosystem. Okay. Okay, so see here, you can see the stratification of plants in forest. There are different levels. Okay, first is the shrub level, then understory level, then canopy level, and the emergent level. Okay, the the plant which are present at the topmost layer gets most light and blooms a lot. Okay, because since they are getting this solar energy in a large amount. Okay, so, this is the division or stratification of plant forest. The biotic and abiotic component differs as the location vary in space and time. Okay. So, whatever the biotic component present or abiotic component present in an ecosystem, it may be different depending on the presence of different kinds of time, food, and space available. Okay. Thus, variation that is attained here is called as spatial pattern. This variation is called as spatial pattern, and there are two types of spatial pattern here. First is stratification and second is zonation. Okay, stratification I already explained you here. It is the formation of different layers within an ecosystem based on the growing ability of the plant. Okay, so, how will you define stratification? Stratification is vertical distribution of different species of plant and animals occupying different levels. See here, this is the vertical distribution. As we go up, the distribution of plant gets decreasing. Okay, when we are at the floor level of the forest or a grassland or an any area that is terrestrial ecosystem, the amount of organisms, plants, animals present here is more. Okay, here the maximum amount of organisms are present. Okay, but as we grow up in this, as we grow up, the number of organisms or the organisms distribution decreases. Okay, this is known as stratification that happens vertically. Okay, are you getting this? Now let us see. Here the example is shown here. Tree occupies the tropical vertical strata or layers of forest. Shrubs occupies a bottom layer. Okay, so similar stratification is also observed in open seas. Okay, where different levels is seen here. For example, suppose this is the sea and this is the sea bed. Okay, so at the sea floor, there are the organisms that are there are different. Okay, at the sea floor, the organisms that are present are different. Yes. So sea floor, which types of animals will be there? So there will be snails. There will be all kinds of mollusks. Okay. Then there will be a large feeder in the middle layer, such as shark, dolphins, etc. Then small fishes will be at generally top. Okay, so this kind of stratification is also seen in uh, sea ecosystem. Okay, so let us see further what is zonation. That is another type of spatial arrangement or pattern that is seen in ecosystem. Okay, so since the spatial pattern or the stratification is vertical distribution of trees and all in any ecosystem, zonation is horizontal distribution. Okay, so horizontal distribution of plants and animals on land or water is called zonation. Okay, so you can see here in this diagram the horizontal pattern or horizontal distribution of organism. Okay, so you can see here the horizontal distribution of organism is seen in this. Okay, horizontal distribution is seen in this. You can see there are different zones here. First is high marshy area where soil is more and then water is less, but due to that combination the marshy area is created here. As we move along the water side, low marshy area is there, and then after that mud flats are there, and then low tide and high tide area will be there. Okay, so this, since this zonation is horizontal one, that happens from right to left, hence it is called as horizontal zonation or horizontal distribution of species. Okay, so this generally happens at the junction. Okay, it is easily seen at the junction of two. It can be a junction of land and water, it can be a junction of any other thing, for example ocean and air, it can be junction of land and air, atmosphere, that is. Okay, so this is how the horizontal distribution of species takes place. Okay, uh, this zonation, remember, is always pronounced at edges of habitat. Okay, wherever the habitat edges are there, for example, just like now I told you, it can be ocean and air, it can be land and air, or it can be land and water. At the edges of any ecosystem, there will be zonation seen. Okay, so the biotic and abiotic component of any ecosystem are linked together as a function of ecosystem unit. Okay, so in an ecosystem, both the units, that is biotic units and abiotic units, functions very importantly. Okay, so it functions through various process. Okay, there are different process through which it functions. The first process is productivity, where plants produces food in the form of glucose, that is chemical energy, using the solar energy. So it is called as productivity. Then animals uses this as a nutrient cycling process. Okay, animal gets the nutrient from the plant and converts that chemical energy into mechanical energy. Okay, then when plants and animals die, they decompose and returns this to the saprophytic organisms. Now these saprophytic organisms gives it to the environment again. Okay, and while this is happening, the energy flow is there. Okay, energy is maximum at the producer level, and it gradually decreases as it goes high upper in the trophic levels. Okay, so ecosystem performs these four processes for its sustenance, or for it to be sustaining. Okay, for ecosystem to be maintained or balanced, all these four processes has to occur properly. Okay, so this process depends on the different kinds of organisms that is present in the ecosystem. Okay, as I told you, productivity depends on conversion of various inorganic chemicals into organic material. Okay, and this happens with the radiant energy of the sun. Okay, as I told you, sun is the ultimate source of energy in our ecosystem, and due to sun we get all the different energy requirements, and due to sun only each and every process is happening on earth. Okay, so this energy is harvested by autotrophs or producers. Okay, it is harvested by autotrophs or producers, and then autotrophs are then consumed by heterotrophs. Okay, decomposition, as I told you, is breaking down of organisms, that is mineralization of organism. Now the mineralization of organism takes place by the dead matter. Okay, so after that comes the nutrient cycling, where the organism takes the nutrients and converts that nutrients into energy. Okay, so this is how the process occurs. Then comes the decomposition and then the energy flow. Okay, remember, the energy flow in any ecosystem is always unidirectional. Okay, it is from producers to consumers, and then from consumers to the tertiary, primary, secondary and tertiary consumers. Okay, so the energy flow is always unidirectional from producers to the consumers, and finally dissipates as a heat loss also. Okay, there is an example given here of the pond ecosystem that is shown to you here, where shallow waters are there, and different abiotic and biotic components are together present in this area. Okay, so this is what the spatial pattern of ecosystem that I just explained. Okay, let's revise a bit. The spatial pattern of ecosystem is of two types. First is stratification and second is zonation. Stratification, remember, always happens from a lower level to the higher level. Okay, and zonation happens from horizontal, sideways. Okay, it can be left to right or right to left. Okay, it is the distribution of species in an ecosystem. Okay, so let's see the first point of these four different components that is present here. First point is productivity. Okay, in details. Now remember, the solar input is constant and is the basic requirement for a ecosystem. Okay, so whatever the solar radiation that is incident on Earth, out of that 100% solar radiation, we don't get out of that 100% solar radiation, we don't get all the amount of radiations on Earth. Okay, so some of them or most of it is lost in the environment, and some of it is absorbed by the organisms. Okay, so whatever the amount of solar radiation that is absorbed by the environment, that solar radiation is actually the utilizable form of radiation. Okay, so let's see what happens to this utilizable form of radiation. Now this utilizable form of radiation is actually used by the organisms. Okay, so how this happens, let's see. uh, First, there is the presence of plants. What this plant does, plants absorbs the radiation and starts converting it into, you know, harvest this radiation and start converting this into uh, glucose, that is the chemical energy. Okay, and this happens through a process called as photosynthesis. Now you know that photosynthesis is the only process in which the solar energy is harvested, and then this solar energy is converted into chemical energy. Okay, and it absorbs the CO2 and gives out O2. Okay, and this is very very important for balancing the life on the earth, as heterotrophs consumes O2 and gives out CO2. Okay, so photosynthesis is the only process which actually balances out this whole thing. Okay, and therefore whatever the solar energy that is being harvested by the plant, and the plant uses this energy to grow. Okay, first of all, plant uses this energy to grow, and after that this energy is further utilized to produce food for the plant itself. Okay, the plant produces the food in surplus amount, and whatever this requirement taken by the plant, or the amount of food required by the plant is used for the growth, and remaining food is stored in form of, fruits, then seeds in stems, etc. Now this food is used by heterotrophs. Okay, so therefore whatever the food that is produced by plant, we can say, is called as productivity. Okay, so let's see now what is productivity. So productivity refers to the rate of generation of biomass in an ecosystem. Okay, this biomass can be useful or non-useful for human beings. Okay, for example, in a tree, whatever the weight of the tree, that is not important to us. Okay, what kind of fruit that tree is giving and what is the biomass of fruit that tree is giving, that is important to us. Okay, so that will be productivity for human beings, but the whole tree is actually regarded as the productivity of that particular tree. Okay, so this productivity, it is expressed in units of mass per unit surface area per unit time. Okay, so whatever the surface area or whatever the solar radiation that is falling onto this surface area for a particular period of time is referred to as its productivity. Okay, so what is the unit of productivity? It is grams per square meter per day. Okay, remember, the unit of productivity is grams per meter square per day. Okay, and the mass unit may be related to dry matter or to the mass of carbon. Okay, so whatever the mass unit that we are seeing is actually the carbon generated. Okay, so the productivity, students, can be divided further into different types. Okay, the most important type is gross primary productivity, that is called as GPP, and then next is net primary productivity. Okay, as I told you, whatever the productivity or whatever the produced that is made by the plant, suppose 100 grams is the total biomass produced by the plant. Okay, so out of that 100 grams biomass, the plant is going to utilize, suppose say 30 grams, okay? So total 100 grams is the gross primary productivity of that particular plant, okay? And the 30 grams is utilized by plant for itself, okay? The remaining 70 grams is actually the net productivity that is available for further organisms or consumers or heterotrophs for their own purpose, okay? For their energy purpose, okay? So this is that is the difference between gross primary productivity and net primary productivity. Okay. So let's see what is gross primary productivity. So gross primary productivity is the rate of photosynthesis of the organic matter during photosynthesis. It is the total of the biomass that is synthesized. Okay. Now, out of this total biomass, as I told you, plant themselves uses a considerable portion of this GPP, gross primary productivity. Okay, plant uses a amount of this portion, and hence GPP minus respiratory loss. Okay, now whenever the respiration is taking place, some energy will be utilized. Okay, so this respiratory loss will be also removed from this GPP, and this NPP will be remaining. Okay, out of this NPP, plant uses certain part and it is available for certain other organisms. Okay, so actually NPP, that is net primary productivity, is the available biomass for consumption to heterotrophs. Okay, now heterotrophs, heterotrophs are the organisms which actually depends on other organisms for their food. Okay, they cannot synthesize their own food as phototrophs or autotrophs. Okay, so heterotrophs may be herbivores, carnivores, decomposers, etc. Okay. So the annual net productivity of the whole biosphere, if we consider the whole Earth, it is approximately 170 billion tons. And this is the dry weight, remember. Okay. Dry weight means what? Weight, approximate weight taken after removing water from that content or the mass of that organisms. Okay, when you remove water from that mass of organisms, it forms a dry weight. Okay, so it is about 170 billion tons of the organic matter. Okay, so of this the productivity of oceans is only 55 billion. Okay, so considerably, if we consider land productivity or the organisms present on land, the productivity is more, and the organisms present in ocean, the productivity is less as compared. Okay, so here it says rest, of course, is the land-based ecosystem. Okay, so this is how the productivity thing occurs in nature. Okay, so primary productivity depends on what? It depends on plant species inhabiting a particular area. Okay, what are the plant species present in a particular area? It also depends on a variety of environmental factors such as nutrient, photosynthesis capacity of plant. Okay, therefore it varies in different kinds of ecosystem. In a particular forest ecosystem, suppose in Amazon forest, there is a lots of plant and the productivity rate is very high. Okay, so naturally the productivity will be high in that area, but in a desert ecosystem, the productivity will be very low because the amount of plant present is very low, the temperature is very high. So net productivity or the gross productivity in that area in a desert ecosystem will be very less. Okay, so it depends on the different kinds of ecosystem. Okay, so now let's see what is secondary productivity. Okay, secondary productivity is defined as the rate of formation of new organic matter by consumers. Okay, whatever the consumers, when it eats the plant, the consumers grow. Okay, for example, a herbivorous animal is eating plant, and this herbivorous animal is growing. When it is growing, it is increasing its biomass. Okay, so once the biomass of that organism is increasing, this biomass of that organism is actually called as secondary productivity. Okay, so this secondary productivity is rate at which the formation of new organic matter takes place by consumers. Alternatively, it is also the rate of assimilation of food energy at the level of consumers. Whatever the food energy that is assimilated by the organism, which it gains from plant, is called as second productivity. It is the amount of energy available to the consumers for transfer to the next trophic level. Okay, so whatever the energy that herbivores is passing to the next trophic level, that is actually called as the productivity. Okay, so let's see the next point, that is decomposition. Okay, uh, Decomposition is what? Decomposition is breaking down of complex substance into simpler substances. Okay. Now, when decomposition happens when organic matter present in plants and animals starts to decompose. Okay. And when it is going to decompose, when that plant and animal dies. Okay. So the dead remains of plants and animals includes fecal matter, detritus. Okay. And this important step happens where fragmentation, leaching, catabolism, and humification and mineralization takes place. Okay. Now all these processes, that is fragmentation, leaching, catabolism, humification, and mineralization, all this process is done by special kinds of organisms, and these are called as saprophytes. Okay. These organisms are saprophytes. Okay. Saprophytes. Okay. So detritivores such as earthworm break down detritus into small fragments particles. This is called fragmentation. See, there are lots of examples of each and every process that is told given here. Leaching happens through the all the organisms that through the water soluble inorganic material that percolates in the soil horizon, and when it percolates it goes down and it is available in the groundwater. Okay. And some of them gets precipitated also, whatever the organic matter that is present. Okay. Then bacteria and fungus that starts or grows on them starts degrading them through the catabolic activities, and this is called as catabolism. And then after that the mineralization takes place. Okay. It is important to note that all above steps in decomposition operates simultaneously on detritus. Okay. So diagrammatically decomposition cycle is shown to you here. Beautifully it is shown where all the different organisms that is responsible for decomposition is shown to you. Okay. So this is how decomposition takes place, and after the decomposition humification and mineralization occurs. Okay. Humification means what? Humification is the uh, decomposition of the dead and decomposed matter and mixing with soil. Okay. And all the minerals that is present in that dead organisms matter or plants matter, it is returned to the soil, and thereby mineralization happens. Okay. So due to humification, accumulation of partially decomposed dark colored amorphous colloidal organic substance happens in soil, and this colloidal organic material is called humus, and this humus is very important for soil fertility. Okay. So it changes, water holding capacity of soil changes, and soil becomes fertile. Okay. So and this humus is colloidal in nature, remember. So being colloidal in nature, humus serves as a reservoir of nutrients. Okay. There are lots of nutrients that is present in this reservoir, and the humus is further degraded by some microbes, and release of inorganic nutrients occurs by the process known as mineralization. Okay. Now these minerals are return to the soil after that. Okay. So decomposition as a process requires oxygen, temperature, and soil moistures are the most important factor of the decomposition process, and this decomposition helps in returning all the minerals that is accumulated by the organism in its lifetime to the back to the soil. Okay. This is how the mineralization cycle happens on earth. Okay. So this is what we have to see in today's lecture. Now in the next lecture the series on this topic, that is ecosystem and energy flow, we will be studying about uh, energy flow in the next lecture that will be happening on YouTube. Okay. Thank you for joining, students, for the today's lecture. I hope you have liked today's lecture. Thank you so much for joining.